This is it. This is part 3 of our breakdown of who we once knew. Part 1 showed you the Brienne that we knew and the Brienne that we had to put up with. Part 2 showed you just why we're here. And now, we're here to clear our names. Brienne may have posted about us since the first episode, but what we're about to show you, is the reason we decided to really make this. It isn't about being petty. It isn't about being right. It's about showing you who we are and the person that you try to make us out to be. Today, we're laying it all on the table and showing you who we really are and allowing you to make your own decisions about this entire ordeal. After today, whatever happens, don't blame Brienne. Let her do that herself. Without further ado, this is part 3. Please enjoy. Just like we said at the end of the last video, today we're going to be talking about these 7 images to show you just how low she's willing to go just to say that she's right. But some of the things that she said in these things were so downright vicious that we didn't know if we wanted to cover these. But here we are. We don't want these to be what you think that we are. We're not. We're going to be going through every single thing that she said in these 7 images, disproving them and giving you more insight on us, because we're not afraid to be honest. Starting with this first image. Right, Bento, because we did have a plan. We can't just be like you and mooch off of other people's parents. You yourself even said you couldn't find a job. I don't know why you're getting so bent out of shape when quite literally you can't find a job either. The difference between you and Zach is that he actually did something with his life and got a degree. You've done nothing. I get you think you're better because you have quote unquote no debt and you have a laid back schedule, but you've said it yourself. Paying $200 a month for rent is hard for you. We were chill and spent a little more than we should have, but at least I can admit when I'm wrong. I did send an apology multiple times. It's not my fault you weren't receptive to what I was saying. You want to be right all the time because you never were in your childhood. I have owned up to what I said, even when the guys purposely came to my house unannounced. I was wrong about the wanting you to come outside and... High key, I think y'all need to quit it. What's done is done and I don't think dragging it out is necessary. There's not even a point because you're never going to see any of us again.
To say I've done nothing with my life is actually insane. Like, actually crazy work. Even coming from you, dude. Like, I actually have credit, and I know you hate to hear me brag about it because you guys have bad credit. And I know you said Zach has great credit. Girl, he's like fucking a couple K. I'm not gonna say the amount because I'm gonna be nice and not fucking blast that shit, but oh my god, like, you can't. Anyways, because you guys have bad credit to where you can't even get an apartment, but I spent years to get my credit to where it is, to where I can actually, like, you know, I have the credit to get an apartment, to get a car and stuff. But and to say I mooch off of Omar's family, but you're the one who expected me to always drop everything to help you with your baby and all your stupid little fucking problems that you couldn't solve on your own because you're so helpless. I saved my money. The only reason why I lost all my savings was because I gave all of my savings to Omar's family because I actually fucking contribute. And you want to talk about childhoods? Yes, I had a really shitty childhood. I'm very open about that. I was raped at a young age. I experienced my parents' battle with alcoholism. I got extremely bullied. I was neglected by my parents. You're right about my childhood being bad. That being said, I actually still go out and live my life, and I don't let any of that hold me back as best as I can. But how many times have you said you can't do something because of your childhood trauma? How many times have you not gone to work because of it? Oh, and let's not mention that you judge Omar's family for mourning one of their members because, in your opinion, which you don't even get to have because it's not your fucking family, not your fucking business, he doesn't deserve to be mourned, but you mourned someone who, according to you, was so shitty that you try to do something absolutely unspeakable to their remains, which I won't mention because I'm still being nice. And you say you hate them and you can't do stuff because of the trauma they gave you, but I'm the one letting my childhood dictate my adulthood. Right. Yes. You're very observant. You want to talk about childhoods? Then let's go. You want to have a trauma off? Then let's go ahead and have one. Let's stay victims. Or we can actually grow the fuck up and live life and move on and actually get shit done. Memento vivere, bitch. And yes, I do struggle to pay $200 in rent. Good thing my boyfriend also pays rent, because we actually both fucking contribute. Oh, but that's right, he uses me for money. I'm not the one who goes fucking begging him to buy me stupid shit I don't need. And yes, I struggled to find a job, but guess who else does? And did. Literally everyone else. It's almost like in 2020 there was a fucking worldwide devastating event that ruined the global economy and heavily impacted the workforce. So yes, I stay at my job that pays me consistently and pays me fairly instead of gambling on finding another job that maybe pays more and being jobless for who knows how long until I find it, or fucking getting a second job, which is hard. I'm considering it. I actually have a fucking plan for things, which I'll get into. Which is something that I'm just gonna get into it now. I made it abundantly clear to her what my plan is. So I find it really funny that you're shaming me for not getting a degree, when one of the reasons why you cut off Zach's mom was because she kept pestering you to pursue higher education and to get a degree, when your plan was only to get a certification or an AA in a subject of some sort. You have literally judged Zach in the past because in the past he told me I wouldn't amount to anything if I didn't get a degree. I don't have a degree because I don't not have one because I can't get one. I don't have one because I don't want one. At least not right now, maybe in the future, but dude, I'm still figuring out my life. Something I've made abundantly clear to you, if not in these messages, even before. I didn't want to waste any of my time going right out of high school when I didn't have any clue what I wanted to do. Plus, if we want to get even more fucking candid, I will. I'm just gonna say it. I was going through an incredibly abusive situation with a former friend I have been referring to as Man Purse. On top of that, I was having a lot of issues with my family. I was coping with losing connection with my cousins after our shared grandmother passed away the year prior. I was also still grieving her loss at that time. I was struggling very heavily with disordered eating that I still grapple with. I knew if I didn't get out of that spot, I was not going to make it to 20. I knew I had to get out. I took steps to try to get out, but I was being controlled by all sides. I was unable until I met Omar, and him and his family in my eyes saved me. I know, a shock considering what you really think of him and his family, but I'll save that for later. I'll come back to it. From then on, so I moved out at 18. So it's been exactly 4 years. So from that time to now, I've been slowly trying to work on myself, make sure that I was stable enough to just live day to day before even thinking about a career in any sort of serious way. This is something I feel like I have succeeded at. I am now in a place where I feel the best I ever had. I am better able to cope with my mental illnesses. My relationship is stable and amazing. I am slowly repairing my relationship with my family, including my cousins, which is part of why I was busy on February 9th, because I was visiting them for the first time in like 6 or 7 years. I now don't feel like being alive is like just I don't feel like just being alive is a constant struggle, and that took work from within myself. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm gonna have a baby and fucking that's gonna make me not want to kill myself like you did. Which is like, anyways, like, yes, I was helped out by Omar's and his family initially. Take that as you will. I don't care. Judge me, hate me, whatever. Fuck you. Everything else from there has been all me, because I was sick and tired of being a victim and not living my life, letting all this shit that I carry with me hold me back. I haven't let it go, but I don't let it hold me back anymore. I wake up every day now with like this insatiable excitement to live. And it's never been that way until very recently. And only then was it that I actually sat down to think about what to do with the rest of my life, since I now knew I was determined to actually go ahead and live my life. But I had to actively make that choice for myself. So no, I do not have a degree, nor a career. And unlike what you said, I actually am in debt. Something that I already said before. Something I was honest with you about, but are now trying to frame me again for bragging about not having it when I do. Weird. Whatever. But yes, I do nothing, and I will be nothing. Just like you, and just like you will be. Because you're an impetulant child, and you legitimately cannot, by your own admission, do anything yourself because of your trauma. Your autism, your pregnancy, postpartum, anger, whatever stupid fucking reason you choose from the roster, just fucking look at yourself. Look at how you are. Look at how you carry yourself. Look at the person you are.
What's up? Just come take one.
What's that?
Cappuccinos.
That looks cool.
Can you get me it?
Huh?
Can you get me it?
I am poor.
You're also poor. But you can put this on your straw.
But I'm poor with an ER.
What? You can put it on
Poorer.
your straw.
Okay.
So like, save on the air.
How much is it?
$6.99.
God damn. Alright, let's go.
Oh my god.
Right now? Oh, okay. What do you want?
We should.
In there?
If I want something, I work towards it, and I make it happen. I save my money. I make sacrifices, whatever has to be done. I don't rely on him to do shit for me. I don't rely on anyone, as a matter of fact. You made a big deal about me asking for rides, but I didn't even ask you for half of those things. Even besides the rides. Half of those things were offered by Zach, the one who actually fucking drives. The underwear you bought me, I paid you back for, and I made it clear to you at the time I didn't need them urgently, and that I was planning to buy them later when I got paid. But you insisted on floating the cost. I only asked for the ride to the dress store because I didn't feel comfortable taking Courtney, who at that time was 14, to downtown to the fashion district on the bus. And I didn't specifically ask you, I asked generally in our group chat that we have with all the guys, and I did say that if no one could, that it was fine. You guys offered, and I accepted. In fact, a week later when I couldn't get a ride, I went by myself like I previously stated, picked up the dress and took it home all by myself. I get myself to work and home every day. I also actually go to fucking work every day. Because as I recall, your hours got cut from fucking Kohl's because you kept calling out due to not being able to go out due to your depression being so fucking bad because of your childhood trauma. My hours also got cut at work, but not because of that or anything I did. Like, it just happened. That's just how it is. Business changes. Things change. But fucking, we actually prepared for it and we talked about it that night that you fucking showed up at our house and we figured it out. Because we actually fucking, part of it was we had to figure out our shit before even fucking figuring out how we were gonna help you guys. But anyways, because fucking, unlike you who fucking mooches off of everyone in their life, we actually fucking figure out our bullshit. Because yes, you're right, I am a fucking moocher. I can't do anything for myself. I let my fucked up childhood get the best of me. Yeah, you're so fucking right. And I'm not going to amount to anything and haven't done anything because of it. You're right. Yeah. So, thank you for helping me realize that, cuz it's very apparent, right? You know, based off of everything I've just said, that I'm the person who's like that. Very obvious.
Image number 2 is really self-explanatory. Here we see the messages that we have already read in that part 2. Again, we are very candid with you guys. There's nothing we really need to hide because, again, we're here to prove ourselves right. If you need a refresher, again, go to part 2 in case you didn't watch it or want to understand why she's posting this. But we do have a couple new images that we forgot to put in. Like we said, Bento did in fact block Brienne. These screenshots are from Bento's story from after Brienne was blocked. We went over how she used a deactivated account to lurk on Bento, calling her out specifically because she called me, I don't know, she told me I was lurking. But here obviously we see that she was lurking using her second account, which, petty, really. In case you need to really spell it out for you that we don't really mind showing this, the one with the Roblox character says, down 3 friends in 3 months, so we are now accepting applications. Again, poking fun, but not actually trying to rebuttal or make a point to Brienne, since again, she's not watching this, or at least we thought. And the other one, it feels so good to wake up to a roster of real friends now that your fake bitches are gone. A little bit tactless, maybe, but it was not meant to cause any harm. Again, Brienne took these herself, so she did lurk on Bento's account using her deactivated account. But that's not the only thing we want to cover with this. Do you see these comments down here? That's right, we're not just trying to call out Brienne, but some of her friends. Tactless, Mr. or Miss NIZ4L_. OKKK, I'm planning to kill that guy soon. Yeah, because we've been threatening death, something that we will cover later on. Image number 3 is fairly tame. This is in response to that Kendrick Lamar post that I made on the Taco Village. Here's the post again for a refresher. Yeah, since we're airing things out publicly, here you go. A 3-part video series for yourself. I mean, nothing much more to say about this one. Take it how you will. I don't care anymore. I'm done with you guys interpreting my actions as manipulation, when quite literally, all I've done is try to get all y'all to understand me. Have a nice life. Also, fuck all of you, especially you, Robert, for accusing us of neglect. Here's the screenshots for you. Maybe do research before you accuse someone of that.
Well, I guess to respond to these screenshots that Brian posted saying that I accused them of neglect, let's start off with the first one. In the first one, it says that it's okay to let your baby cry out for 5 to 20 minutes. And you know what? That's fair. But in their case, they didn't let their baby cry out for 5 to 20 minutes. It was probably near an hour or so. And we were all intoxicated, right? So they left him on their bed, just crying it out. I don't know why she posted that, because that's not what I said. I said it was more than that, and it's clearly, I don't think, okay to leave your baby crying for that long, right? So I think she's just manipulating my words. For the second one, same thing. Yeah, it's probably fine to leave your baby in a diaper, sleeping in a room temperature room, when it's cool or whatever. But in this case, I brought it up to them because he wasn't in a air conditioned room or anything. They took him to the park during, what was it, Pablo? September, close to when he was born. yeah, a month after he was born. This is peak of summer-ish, kind of, right? So it was hot during like the afternoon, evening when we first saw them, and then we went to what is it called? The park. What was it called again? I forget. Garvey Ranch. Garvey Ranch. We go there so much, but I forget. Garvey Ranch, the park. It's always that park. But regardless, it was warm in the day, and then cold in the night, and he was only in a diaper. And I just think it's funny that when we brought it up to them, her response was, "Well, what were we supposed to do?" But it's like, well, you should have stayed home. Like, he's a newborn. He's an infant. Like, don't take your kid out when it's like too hot or too cold, especially like in like a diaper. Later on, they had like a onesie for him, right? And that was better, but I hear Bento bought it for them, right? So even then, I don't think they should have brought him. You know, everyone was intoxicated, but you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it. I don't know. That's it for that segment.
Quickly, before I cover image number 5, image number 6, again, just says go ahead and lie again. We don't even know what we said at that point. There was nothing that we posted at this point in the storyline. We were literally writing the script for this video, or for part 1, as well as I've been editing everything for part 1, so we hadn't said anything. The only thing that we did was post a trailer, which is on the Taco Village Instagram account. But there's nothing that I can think that warranted this, since none of us had posted on any socials. But image number 5 is when I get brought in, and the reason why I really wanted to make this. First of all, the image is in the back again. These images you can find in part 2 when Bento was reading over everything that happened. But here's what she wrote. "One more for good luck. I asked civilly and you went off because you thought you were right. Never in any situation is it okay to bring up a living, breathing child when they don't have anything to do with it, especially when it's your godson. I literally told you it wasn't to hurt you. I tried to help you understand that it wasn't easy for Zach to just quit school. We didn't make the decision to have him lightly. We ran the numbers and made a plan, but of course, you'll never admit that we actually tried to make it work with what we had. Also, fuck you. I don't care if you don't believe me, but babies and postpartum care and formula is expensive. You and the guys don't get to choose for us about our child." See, again, we're blacking out a bunch of the text here because this is something that shouldn't have been brought up by Brienne, but time and time again, this is the 3rd time that she brings up this specific fact about Bento that's obviously I'm not going to reveal because it is not necessary, and she keeps bringing it up as a point to really try to dig it into us, because at this point she knows we're making this video, so she's just trying to slander everything, saying that she's not at fault for anything that she's done. And that's when I get really mad. You mess with my friends, you're gonna get it, alright? I didn't have to edit 3 hours of video. You don't deserve 3 hours of video, but we did it anyway. We did it to explain ourselves, because this is something that I didn't black out, but we'll get to that in just give me a second. Just to quickly write off some of the things again, civilly, but you went off, and then in the message that she's showing, she brings it up again. Even after in the first response Bento made, they said, "Why would you bring it up?" And again, brings it up on the screenshot herself that she made. Not only that, this is to Zach as well. But what plan would you have thought would have made any sense in this situation? Your kid is not okay in the situation with you guys. You specifically, Brienne, you're a danger to him. I don't care what you think or have to say. You don't care for him. Selfish. But let's continue. Of course, you'll never admit that we actually tried to make it work with what we had. No, because you wouldn't have made it work. You aren't making it work. 7 months later, and you still cannot make it work. And we're not saying postpartum care and formula is expensive. We know. I know. I helped my sisters pay some of that for with their kids. I have 5 nieces and nephews, all right? They all grew up with me, and I'm not saying I know how it's like to take care of a child. I personally, as much as I do want a daughter, I won't do that for the kid itself. Why? Because I know myself better. And clearly you apparently do too, because you brought this up. And this is why I'm in this. This is why I decided to make this. Also, Pablo, I would have never left my child with you. You would have offed yourself just like you said you were going to in Oregon. What does she mean by this? Let me quickly give you a bit of context. The reason we're blocking out Bento's stuff is because, plain and simple, Bento does not want it in the video. I could have easily as well blocked this out, but I wanted to make a point to Brienne that I know myself better than you ever will. We know you better than you ever will. And for that reason alone, I want to speak on this. Around January, when we were still hanging out, one of the Sundays when Zach, Brienne, and I would hang out at their house, we got really, really intoxicated. And it wasn't a light drinking day. It was heavy drinking. We finished off a bottle of vodka, and Zach and I went out to the liquor store right down their house to buy more alcohol. We bought a bottle of Tennessee whiskey. We threw up after this. This is one of those days that I regret just because of what happened, what came out of it. I was very intoxicated, and I only remembered waking up in my car at around 4 a.m., parked in some parking lot. The information that she's saying the information that she's giving right now, what she's trying to say is, around December, I take a couple of trips up to the Pacific Northwest, up the California, Oregon, and Washington coasts. Why? Because in 2018, I lost someone very special to me. Someone who, at that point, saved me, most literally. I was at a point in my life where I didn't even think about what I was going to do the next day, much less 10 years from now, 5 years, 1 year. This person meant a lot to me because they helped me realize that for the first time, I want to live for more than just tomorrow. And then they tragically passed away on December 28th. For the next couple years, I've struggled in December. Terrible seasonal depression that I just can't seem to get out of my head. She brought this up the first time during our intervention in February 10th with Robert and Matthew there. It was a surprise to me because I do not remember telling her this. It was the time when I learned that she didn't care about what she said so long as she was proving herself right. She brought it up to disprove my claim about therapy helping. And I will admit I might have slipped up when I said I am a success story. But I did mean it because back in 2018 high school era, had I not gone, I probably wouldn't have been here. I was an attention-seeking asshole who threatened to kill himself every single day to anyone who would listen just so he can get some attention. I didn't like the person that I was. I went to therapy to help myself. And I'm here now. Does it hurt talking about this? Yes, but I want to say this to make a point. When she brought it up, I felt extremely hurt. It didn't hit me immediately. I texted Bento a couple hours after saying that I was crying because I didn't expect her to stoop that low. Here's a screenshot to prove that. And then she brings it up here. I don't remember telling him this because I was very intoxicated, so I obviously told him in confidence while I was. So every December, I go up to Pacific Northwest to remind myself of the beauty that the earth holds, just so I can have myself grounded a little bit. I take a week off and go up north to live outside of this city and see the beauty in the nature, in the rivers, in the roads. It helps me clear myself. And I wanted to bring it up to show that I have my flaws. And I'm not afraid to voice them. And I hate that she thinks that this would have knocked me down. She made the reference in his that says, I would have never left my child with you. Because when we met up on our final hangout on February 1st, we were playing a game of truth or drink, where she said, if anything happened to Zach, I could be the one who could co-parent. So she immediately takes that back here, saying that why would she help? Why would she let me co-parent if I were to just keep going to Oregon to kill myself? It doesn't hurt, to be honest. In fact, I feel much better talking about it, no matter how terrible I sound right now. It's something that you can learn, Brienne. You really wanted to make this dirty to try to really stop us, but I'm stronger than you think. I'm stronger than you'll ever be. You want to call me abusive, but look in the mirror. Your boyfriend has done shit that is very consistent with abusers, but you laugh it off as, oh, that's just him. Dude financially abuses you. Don't let you go out. Dude goes silent when you do something he doesn't like and tries to force you to have sex when you're about to go out so you can't leave. Like, bro, figure your own shit out.
I'm just gonna start from the beginning in terms of my response to what you're seeing on the screen. In 2020, we went into lockdown. I, as I stated previously, was in a very abusive friendship with this character I will call Man Purse. I'm not going to get into the specifics, but I was being incredibly stifled as to who I could be. The type of person that I was at that time was very much geared to what this Man Purse person, who they wanted me to be. Also, very much affected by how my parents wanted me to be, because at that time I still lived with my parents. And I was, like I said previously, I was being controlled from all angles. I was unable to access my documents that I would need to get an ID and therefore to get a proper job. It was lockdown. I had experience cleaning yards and stuff, but with lockdown and everything, I couldn't secure a job doing that, even because even my grandpa wasn't, because he's the one who cleans yards. Even he wasn't really getting work at that time because people weren't letting other people in their homes, generally speaking. And on top of that, I was stuck at home, and at that time my parents were still very much struggling with their alcoholism. On top of that, there was some other issues going on. I witnessed assaults. I witnessed alcoholism. As I said, I was effectively, my documents were being held hostage by my parents. And I was always trying to find workarounds. I was always trying to figure something out, at least for the first couple months after I turned 18. And then I will admit, I eventually just kind of gave up, especially after an interaction I had with this Man Purse person, where I was venting to them about it, because at that time, much like with you, Brienne, I thought that we were friends. A running thing with me, to kind of get on a little bit of a tangent, I always find myself in these situations where I think I'm friends with someone, and I am actually just being used one way or another. Whether it be sexually, whether it be financially, whether it be emotionally, like with you guys, as well as financially with you guys, or just in general, not being respected. I find myself always in these situations with these unsavory people, and this was no exception. There's a lot of parallels between my situation with Man Purse and my situation now with you and Zach. And one thing I learned is eventually you have to let go. And part of that now is me saying these last couple things in this video. But to get back on topic, he had told me that I would not amount to anything. He told me that I would. He told me that all I was good for was, the only thing that I could possibly do to get myself out of the situation was to find a man, and mooch. And that the only way that he basically told me that I wasn't going to get out of my bad situation with my parents, that is, because he didn't consider the situation with us bad. So after hearing a lot of that stuff, I just gave up, and my whole thing went from, I want to get out, to just being like just surviving at that point in the environment. So in August, I start playing Among Us, which it is relevant. I'll get into it. And I had met Omar before this in person. He was actually friends with this Man Purse person. And so I was introduced, and I had known of him through Man Purse because they were friends. And it was honestly a thing where, even though I didn't remember what he looked like, and I didn't know him, speaking to him and playing Among Us with him, I felt immediately very drawn to him. I felt like a crush, I guess, is the way I'll put it, so it's more understandable. I was drawn to him. I had a crush. A lot of us didn't have jobs because, it was August. This was 2 months after we'd graduated high school. So a lot of us would stay up late on our Discord and, just be on call. And there would be times where it would be me and one other person, or maybe me and a group of other people, because I didn't have a job. I'd basically effectively given up, and I was just kind of living. I was kind of just in a state, I guess. And there was a couple times where it ended up just being me and him on the call, and it was really nice. And I was in my mind, I was this feels really special somehow. But I was realistically, it isn't. I'm just wishful thinking. I see what he looks like, my feelings intensify. And I'm just oh, well, again, I was it's just wishful thinking. You're just trying to I don't know, just a crush. But eventually I hang out with him, once the lockdown rules kind of lifted a bit more, and my feelings intensify, and his do too, for me. And to make a long story short, eventually he starts going to my house every day, and eventually he tells me that he likes me, and we get together. However, this Man Purse person did not like that and attempted to get in between it, and this did cause issues in the start of our relationship. However, I will note, despite all of that, he saw the situation that I was in, and given how he felt about me, he took it upon himself to get me out of where I was. And he didn't have to do that, because at the time that I moved in with him, we hadn't even been together for 5 months. It was all very quick. Say what you will about it. We were both 18. We were in love. He saw that the person he loved was struggling in a very toxic environment, and he took it upon himself to try to help in the only way he really could. And like I said, we had issues, but we always have resolved our issues, even when it wasn't always the easiest thing. And it wasn't always a one and done argument, one and done conversation. It took growing on both of our parts. And eventually I did cut off that man purse person once I felt like I had the strength to. And, you know, from then on, our relationship has just continued to flourish. We've shared many beautiful moments together. We've attended weddings together. We've gone on various outings. We've gone on vacation together. We just live our lives together as one, but we still allow each other freedom. And this is the first thing I'm going to contend. I touched on it in the previous video, one side of it, which I felt like one part of her saying something like that is to be like, oh, he's like a sexual deviant. Because in private, this is something that like we would joke about all of us though. We would joke that we were all weird and we were all freaky. And there was a couple running jokes, which is also part of why she says like you would always laugh it off. Yeah, because a lot of it I was interpreting it as like our inside jokes as friends because we were friends. We were best friends. Anyways. So I just want to point out the thing about him trying to trap me and stuff. Not true. That's something that you brought up to me as an interpretation of a joke that I said, and I told you that's not how it is. And then, like I already touched on the last video, I find it really funny to say that he forces me into things when, according to what Zach has divulged to me, there's been many times where he has forced you into sexual acts. Or sorry, I misworded. There's been times that you've divulged to me that Zach would force you into sexual acts, and there's been times where he told me that about you. So, audience, take that as you will. When it comes to these things, it was by word. I don't have proof that either of them said this because it was mostly in person. But I did want to point out, you both said that one forced the other into sexual acts. And this is something I think Pablo, as far as like things Zach has said, can touch on as well. Next, I want to touch on her saying that he financially abuses me. I touched on it a bit before, but in a very serious manner. To bring it back to the timeline of our relationship, I could not get a job for about 2 years. I had one part-time job at a baby store that didn't work out, and I was only took that job because they did not allow any sort of documentation to work there, and I was getting paid in cash. And I was getting paid like $8 an hour. Not a very good job. But it was a job, so I took it. But obviously, working half of what minimum wage is, I was making hardly any money. I was working like 2 days a week. And so Omar had to pay for me to be able to afford medicine. He had to pay for me to afford, period supplies. He had to pay when I needed new clothes for work. He had to pay for that. Whenever like I needed to eat, he had to, buy food for me, groceries and stuff. Well, for both of us. He was the one footing the bill for the first 2 years of our relationship, I would say. He was the one footing the bill. And that's something that I've divulged to you that you're conveniently leaving out. Because one thing I want to make very clear is that you've always been very wishy-washy on your opinion of Omar. And you made the point of like, oh, part of the reason why you have an idea of Zach is because of me. Like we've said before, you don't make an effort to get to know people. So instead of actually trying to get to know Omar, you just go off of things that I say. And it is true about your perception of Omar that you legitimately only have an idea of who he is. The other guys can contest to the type of person he is. And for you to say that he uses me financially, when, like I said, you don't even have a job. Even when you did have a job, Zach had to pay for you. Even when you did have a job, I had to offer you money so that you could afford things. Things like that. But yes, he uses me. And I want to point out, after those 2 years, he did stop working. Why? Because he started going to school full time. And I want to point out something that I made very clear to you. He only did that because I told him that it was okay. That, we would be okay. I had a more stable financial job at that point. So I was like, look, you're killing yourself trying to do school and work. We don't have kids. We have our guinea pigs, but, we really, with how much money I was making at that time, we really were okay. But keep in mind, the main difference is we don't have a fucking kid either. It was just us two. And because he was going to school, we were not getting charged rent. So there was that expense gone. Whereas for you, Zach has told you multiple times to go get a fucking job. And you don't because, oh, but my autism. Oh, but I'm postpartum. Oh, but I have depression. Yeah. And I will say, Omar has a job now, partially because he's trying to pay off his school, for one. 2, I don't work as much as I did back then. I was getting much longer hours than I do now. Because this isn't the first time my hours have been shortened. This is the second time. So, yeah, I struggled to pay $200 rent now, like I said, but it wasn't always like that. And this is something that you knew because I told you. So, yeah, he financially abuses me. It sucks. But, what can I do? And now I want to touch on the point where she's like, he doesn't let you go out. I want to bring up an event that happened in October after Simon was born, where Zach came to me and he said that he really wanted to go to his friend Adam's birthday party, and that you said he couldn't go because he had to take care of Simon. And Zach came to me being like, I really want to go and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, I'll talk to her, or we'll both talk to her and we'll see if maybe I go over, if you can go, if I go over and help her watch Simon, if you can go, and so that he can go to this fucking birthday party. So, she says yes. I go over to help with the baby. I'm helping with the baby, doing all the work, because you can't bend over and you can't do shit because you're disabled. And eventually he starts crying. I'm there soothing him. You don't do shit to help. You freak out, even though you're not even the one dealing with the baby. And you call him to come home after he's only been at the party for like an hour or 2. And this isn't the first time. There's been times that he's wanted to go out with other friends, with his family, where he isn't allowed because, oh, I don't like that person. Oh, but the baby, you have to take care of the baby because I can't take care of him by myself, according to your own admission. Oh, this, oh, that. Whereas for me, you're making the case, oh, he doesn't let you go out. But I go out all the time. I was going out almost every Sunday with you guys. I go out with my other friends, and I'll insert photos here of proof of me being able to leave the house. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? I go out all the time, but you know who doesn't? And who hasn't, even before fucking Simon was born? Zach. Zach doesn't go out because you don't let him, except to go to fucking work, basically. And then another thing I'm going to touch on next is her saying, dude goes silent when you do something he doesn't like. Well, I'm going to bring it back to the fucking incident of when you... Okay, I'm going to explain it from the start. It was Friendsgiving 4. We had to have it at the park because due to a separate issue with Zach and Brienne, we couldn't have it at Omar's house anymore. And due to, them cutting off his entire family, we couldn't have it at Zach's house either. So we had it at the park, but it was too cold for the baby. And they did not pack any warm clothes for him. They packed blankets, but they did not bring like a crib or anything to put him in. He was just on the table. He was always just on the table surrounded by blankets, or being held by me or by Matthew or by Pablo or Zach, never Brienne. And she was saying that they needed to go home. Zach did not want to go home, so he was trying to find a solution. Brienne's suggestion was that we go to Applebee's and we all just order sodas and sit in Applebee's. Keep in mind, we had all just eaten and we had a bunch of extra food, and while we're trying to relocate the Friendsgiving, there's still people like coming to the Friendsgiving because it hadn't even have been like 2 hours since we started. So me and Zach are disagreeing with her. We're trying to make suggestions because we can't just go to Applebee's and order sodas And then she's like, oh, but we can just get like an appetizer for like the whole group. We had like 10 people with us. They're not just gonna let you have one appetizer platter for the whole fucking group. I told her they're gonna kick us out. And she's like, well, how do you know that? And I'm like, dude, like, when I tell you it took everything in my power to not be like, are you stupid? She goes silent while we're talking to her, me and Zach. And then she goes and she's like, I'm gonna go to the bathroom. So she goes to the bathroom. 30 minutes goes by. I'm like, let me go check on Brienne. I go in there and she's crying and she's like, oh, I had a panic attack because I just felt like the pressure was being put on me to decide where to go. And I was just there like being sympathetic towards her because I don't want to fucking cause another argument like we had just basically had, and I don't want to fucking deal with it because I was just trying to have fun with my fucking friends, even though I was designated to fucking take care of the baby the whole time. But whatever. So you want to make the case about Omar going silent and not communicating with me and stuff when I do something or say something he doesn't like. Meanwhile, you fucking go cry in the bathroom and you go silent with Zach all the fucking time. We've all seen you do it whenever he says something you disagree with, or when any of us say something you disagree with. But yeah, Omar is the one who fucking does that. And to say, even from the jump, oh, you call me abusive, but look in the mirror, your boyfriend does shit that's very consistent with abusers. Like, then why did you allow us to watch him if you thought he was an abuser the whole time? If you thought that I was being abused, why did you just allow us to watch your baby then? And it's an extension with his family, because you've told me in private that you don't like how his family is and you think that they're abusive too and stuff. Then why did you allow your baby to be in this house with us, with him?
Hi, sorry, Bento, my bad. I want to quickly interject because this is a point that she made to comment on the first parts of the video. We know we said we weren't going to comment anymore, but I think this bears to be said. She says, bringing my son into this was really ill for all of you. And Bento, this is directed to you specifically. The reason why I still chose to bring my son over, even though I had some issues with Omar, is because he's your boyfriend. If I had said stuff to you, you would have been defensive, or it would have caused problems. At the end of the day, you guys were the godparents. You also failed to mention that Omar's family literally took advantage of me while I was pregnant. Now, again, we weren't going to respond, but I think this person in the comment section, you can look them up. I'm not going to say who they are. We know who they are, but go ahead. Said this. Honestly, I'm not personally involved in any of this, but I will say to her comment about how she didn't want to upset you guys or make it an issue about sending her kid over to your guys' place, even though she had a problem with Omar and thought he was an abuser, I'll just say this. If I had a kid, knowing what I've been through, I would never send my kid over to someone's house to be watched if I thought the person watching my child was an abuser, even if someone else was there with said person. Even if it was a one-off incident with verbal, physical, etc. type of abuse, you got me fucked up if I'm going to trust someone like that around my defenseless newborn baby/child. So instead of thinking, oh, this person is an abuser, I'd rather not chance anything happening to my child, she thought, I don't want to cause problems, so I'll send my child over to the house, even though I think said person is abusive. In reality, I think she didn't want to watch her own child. Depressing. I truly understand people have postpartum depression after birth and hormonal changes, but that wouldn't excuse someone sending their kid to be watched by someone they thought was abusive or had issues with them. Thank you.
If you thought that he was so abusive. And I've already pointed it out by explaining all these things point by point, but to sum it up, all these things that you're saying about Omar are things that you do, Brienne. You do these things to Zach. And I find it really funny that you're deflecting so fucking hard and trying to make the case that my relationship is abusive when look how you look in your own relationship versus how me and Omar look in our relationship. The face of the abuser and the abused. Who's who? You decide. You fucking decide, I guess. I don't know. And like, to say, go figure your own shit out. Like, you say you fucking stand by abusers and stuff, but then you're pointing out, oh, your boyfriend's abusing you. Go sort your own shit out. Like, that just, it reads to me as you're trying to victim blame me when I'm not even being victimized. And I'm not even being abused. Like, dude, I'm just gonna say it, you're actually the fucking stupidest person I've ever had the displeasure of interacting with. I genuinely do not understand the level of delusion that has to go with you saying that my boyfriend's abusive and that my relationship is toxic when you and Zach argue constantly. Constantly you argue. Every fucking day you guys argue. Meanwhile, every day me and Omar are just chilling next to each other. We just are. You know? And the thing is, the point I also want to make is some people just don't work out together. You and Zach are those people who do not, textbook, don't work out together. That's fine. But I also want to bring up again, why did you bring a child into it? You know? You didn't have to have an abortion. You could have given him up. You both know deep down that your relationship is not functional. You know there is no salvaging this. And yet, you still are just accepting what's comfortable because you're used to living like this. You're used to it. And I know how that feels because I got used to living in like the comfort of the discomfort because it's what was normal for me for a long time to live in abuse and neglect. But you have to break out of that eventually, which is another point I was trying to make about the trauma. There comes a point where you have to decide you're going to live your life. There has to come that point. Whether it's fucking Zach or you, Brienne, one of you has to fucking break the cycle and make the choice. But anyways, I'm gonna also note, it's funny that she said it was wrong to mention her living, breathing child when I want to I want to restate that all of this was because we care about Simon. If it was just Zach and her fucking up their lives, we wouldn't be posting all this. We wouldn't be fucking saying all this stuff. We are saying and doing all of this because there's a child involved. He is in danger. I have been worrying myself sick over all this shit because while she's posting all this, who's taking care of him? Where the fuck is Zach? And where are you, dude? Where the fuck are you in all of this? That's your fucking son. You're leaving your son with a fucking psychopath and you're just comfortable with that? I don't understand how you can fucking call yourself a father, dude. I don't understand. It's like, fuck us, fuck you, fuck everything. Simon is the one who's really fucking suffering because of all this. We were just trying, not just me. I said earlier, like, I was trying to advocate for him, but it's not just me anymore. We are all just trying to advocate for him because he is, as you love to point out, he is only 6 months old. We are very much aware of this. Are you, though? Are you aware that he's 6 months old and he can't fucking defend himself and he can't fucking do shit for himself legitimately because he's a baby? That's how babies are? And you want to fucking make the point that he makes your life so much better, but I never fucking hear you talk about I never fucking hear you be like, oh, but for the betterment of Simon's life, because it's all about fucking you. I don't understand how you both can call yourselves mothers and a fucking father when, oh my god. I don't understand. I'm just gonna end it before I fucking go off more. I don't understand, again, why you brought him into this. When you think very critically about the situation, when you're looking at it with all the facts, I do not understand. And I want to ask you, why did you have him when you were deep down, both of you were not deep down certain about the situation? You were not certain about being able to provide him the life he deserves. Because trust me, I speak from experience of having a fucked up childhood, as made very clear. I speak from the experience of having a fragmented relationship with my parents because of that. Trust me, I speak from that. I have been in Simon's position, and I'm on the other side of it now, but it's still painful. It's painful for both parties. If you won't spare him the pain, then think about yourself, because that's all you fucking care about anyways. Think about you in the future. Think about how painful it is when your son can't even fucking look you in the eyes because you fucking dropped him on the head, or he can't look you in the eyes because every time he sees you look at him, he sees all the resentment that you hold for him because you decided to have him when you weren't ready, and now you fucking hate him for it, and he knows it. He can see it because I've been there. I've seen that look in my parents' eyes, and I know how that feels, and you can't go back from that. That's assuming he even fucking wants to fix things with you. That's assuming he would even want to. And you talk a lot of bullshit about Zach's mom, about my mom, about fucking whoever's mom. But when you're some far worse third thing, and it's like you talk all this shit about other people's parents and other people's fucking lives, when it's like, I think you should take your own advice about what you said in this post and look at yourself in the mirror and think about what you, Brianne Chandler, see looking back at you, as well as you, Zachary Carrillo, since you stand by her words, which is very abundant from your lack of defending any of us and any of this, which is one thing, but at least fucking defend your son. Both of you take your own advice that you collectively try to give and look yourselves in the mirror and think long and fucking hard about what you see looking back at you.
So that's it. All 7 images have really decided to spark us into replying to Brianne. We're done. Brianne, we're done. you won't see or hear from us again. So, before we finish up though, Jared, Zach's brother, has a couple more things to say, along with Robert, before we're officially done. Not to you, Brian. You can take off the video now. We don't care. Zach, this is for you. Not only do you have your actual blood brother here, I would say Robert comes pretty close there too. And you might not think of all of us like that, but I did. Our little band of brothers that we have. I never had a brother. It's probably the closest I'll ever get to feel like it. Zach, I just want to tell you that I did wish this could have been resolved. There was never a point in this entire situation until Brienne posted that I didn't think we couldn't solve this. Even if Bento didn't want to. You always had Matthew, Robert, and me. We hoped. We really did. So, I guess, take it away, Jared.
Months would pass by, and Zach, slowly but surely, has begun to start living over at Brienne's grandparents' house. I would see Zach, if I was lucky, maybe once a month, say hi, and that would be it. Some minor things I want to mention are, well, for one, Brienne ruined my other brother's birthday. Since for his birthday, he wanted to play Warcraft 3 LAN, and this is like a family tradition back to when we were kids. We would all have, PCs, we would play, and since Zach had been, so busy with college, it was something we just hadn't done in a long time. Zach would go on to roughly play for 20 minutes with me and my brother until we'd go AFK. Me and my other brother obviously wondering, hey, Zach, where you go? But we would find Brienne pissed off, sitting on his bed, cussing Zach off on the phone. Zachary, locked outside of his own room in our backyard, completely outside of the house, and Brienne in his room. Zachary begging and apologizing to Brienne for not paying attention to her. She ruined my other brother's birthday, as this was the only thing he asked from us. Pretty much the only thing we really did, and we're supposed to be doing all day. Zach was being punished for trying to hang out with his own brother on his own brother's birthday. But because Brienne is self-centered and selfish, she just couldn't let him enjoy his time with his brother. Besides this, I would like to also mention how petty Brienne is, because I had gone upset with her over her stories on Christmas. She would gift my brother a very thoughtful gift with multiple different candies and a very, extra Christmas bag. Like, this design was really extra. She would give me a brown paper lunch bag with a singular type of candy, and the candy wasn't even good, guys. Candy wasn't good. Saying, sorry, due to financial and personal reasons, I couldn't get you a gift. All to be petty. But back to the main scenario. My family and Zach would try to reconnect the family on multiple occasions. First time we would talk, we would, all be there trying to settle our differences. Ending with us finding out that Brienne demanded an apology from my mother and I. After this meeting, another meeting would go by, and Brienne seemingly had wrote in a letter apologizing to my family, in which, to sum it all up, she would do nothing but blame her autism and issues instead of taking the blame for the actions and consequences that came. But, once again, the famous Brienne words of the manipulator. I know I did was wrong, but you need to understand. Blah blah blah. She had issues or some shit. The whole letter was BS. I honestly don't even remember anymore. As how dumb that letter was. I know that, though. The only reason there was even a letter was because Zachary this whole time didn't want to risk having his parents, my family, his family, out of his child's life. The baby, would be born still, and I wouldn't be allowed to see him, as Zachary feared Brianne's backlash. In fact, I still haven't seen him, even to this day. We would have our third and most recent meeting, in which we all sat down, and Zachary would explain to us that the only option of being a part of Simon's life would be to write an apology letter from me and my mom, or everyone in the family would be punished and not allowed to see the baby. This is a prime example of weaponization of a baby, something that's completely fucked up to do. I told my brother, I didn't want to be involved in this apology or Brianne because honestly, I was done at this point. I had seen how much trouble she has been causing us. Why would I want someone like this in my own life? But he kept on insisting that we could try and possibly have a chance of being in Simon's life, as he desperately wanted us in his child's life. I would humor his requests of the apology and ask him, since I don't even know what I'm apologizing for, do you have a list or something? In which he would pull out a list of over 60 different things for me and my mom to apologize for. And this would send me in a burst of laughter. It's absurd to even think about this. After a whole almost half a year had gone by and she still hadn't moved on. This would unfortunately cause my brother to have a mental breakdown and start crying. And honestly, it was at this moment I truly saw all the pain and suffering my brother had been enduring at the hands of Brianne, how much pain and agony he had been enduring, all because Brianne had just chosen not to be, cooperative with him and allowing him to have his own son see his family that he loved so much. In Zachary's eyes, he knew that Brianne wouldn't allow him to have family relations with us without us basically sucking up to Brianne. And Zachary, obviously worried for the future of his own son, wanting the best for his son, worried about, he was worried about the backlash that would come from him denying Brianne's demands. This, honestly, was one of the most painful moments for me, as I realized Zach's devotion and agonizing suffering was because he wanted, what was best for Simon, and for him to enjoy his family. But Brianne just has not been able to, cooperate with him at all. And at this moment, the resentment I had previously felt from not being able to see my nephew slowly went down, as I realized Zachary had just been trying to do what was best for his son, as all of this, everything he had been doing was what he felt was best for his son, because he didn't want his own son to lose his mom or have his parents be separated. He would end up hugging me and crying to me and telling me about how much pain he was in, because he couldn't bring his own son to meet me, my brother, telling me how much he loved me and that I always be his brother, and how sorry that he was for the situation. I later find out something he had told my parents, and I'd feel like you'd also find it be very touching. Told my dad, he pointed at a picture of my dad and all three of us smiling together, saying to my dad, that's what I want for Simon. Now, it's strange Zach would occasionally hang out with us, and in this, he would have to lie to Brianne, because she would go off on Zach, as now I've heard from, she's reacted when my dad had given him a new shirt. Anytime Zach wasn't where Brianne was there, he would be called nonstop. If that doesn't tell you how manipulative, controlling, abusive Brianne is, then I don't know. And to reiterate what the whole situation with the brand new shirt was, basically he had gotten a gift, and I know exactly what shirt this was since my dad had gone on a trip, and she would throw it out saying that she didn't want anything from my dad or our family in her grandparents' house, not even her own house. But I mean, it just makes sense. If you go right now, because of how petty Brienne is and not accepting anything, my parents have done for them. And it's just sad because of how supportive my parents are. Even if they didn't, want it, they're still supportive of Zach. But because of Brienne and her demands and her controlling nature, Zach can't enjoy anything my parents have done for him. Now, I'm sure I've missed or forgotten a lot of the details. Reason being, I actually moved on. I mean, fuck, it's been over a year at this point, and I've moved on with my life. My life is still going on. Like, I'm in college. I'm doing a bunch of shit, Like, fuck, I'm enjoying my life out here. But, unlike Brienne, still demands that specifically my mother and my brother, my mother and I apologize. Just, seriously, Brienne, move the fuck on, bro. You're so petty that you're ruining your own son's life, since he can't now experience growing up with his own family members, like his grandmother, his grandfather, great-grandfather, great-grandma, all of which are thankfully to be alive. He is privileged. Simon is privileged enough to have around, except you won't let them see them. You won't let him see any of his family because of your pettiness and grudges you hold. You are the cause of Simon's life not being fulfilled like it should be right now, because of how much loving family he has all around him, because you are selfish, self-indulgent. You argued with Zach and brainwashed him into thinking he doesn't have control or has no power over his son, to the point where he has frequent breakdowns over the fact that his own family can't see his son, causing your own boyfriend trauma and stress because you're greedy, petty, a loser, a loner, and a piece of shit. My grandparents, Simon's grandparents, health are declining every day. It's a natural process of aging, but because of your greediness, you have to enslave Zach and punish him for wanting his own family to be part of his son's life. You ruined my brother's life, because you don't and won't ever have one.
I guess I just wanted to talk about like my relationship, friendship with Zach. I've known Zach since the 6th grade. So we were, how old were we? 11, 12, around there. So that's around over 10 years, that's around 12 years, I want to say, that we've known each other. I think he has always been like the closest friend I've ever had. That's a long time to be friends for, I think just seeing like how his relationship was with Brienne, there's just always something uncomfortable. It's just like the back and forth, the bickering, the comments, how they acted around each other. It was just hard being there with them. I think there was just sometimes where, and this could sound kind of messed up, but I just wanted to hang out like with him, like just one-on-one, but I always felt like I couldn't because she would always tag along, and that would have been fine, honestly, like if it was different, if she was a bit different, like a different person. And I don't mean this to be like rude or anything. Like I definitely like tried being her friend for a very long time, but the more time went on, it was just hard not to notice the bad character traits, and it made me uncomfortable. And I think even in group settings, like when all of us were there, it was difficult just having them argue, especially like later on, like when everything started crumbling, like we all we all saw it. Like we would just look at each other, we would glance at each other, be like, oh, like here we go, like there's gonna be an argument. But I think it just hurt. Like I just distanced myself from everyone, you know, not just him, from everyone. And I think at first I thought it was me that was like kind of wrong or different for whatever reason. I thought I was just growing apart from everyone, but I realized that it was just because there was a lot of problems there with them. And like the more we all talked about it, it was just because they were, you know, in a toxic relationship. And it got to the point where we did talk to them, you know. I think we tried our best to be respectful, right? Even now, you know, like there's a lot of things we could say about Brienne. Like, well, Zach has his fair share of problems, you know. I don't want to say like he's perfect, right? He's made a lot of mistakes in the past, somewhat recently, right? But I think at the end of the day, like, it's kind of like when we talk to him, he does listen, right? He sometimes listens, like with Pablo, where he doesn't actually like apply the recommendations, the stuff people tell him, right? But I think like he does listen, and maybe there is at least some sense of introspection, right? He does think about it. And I think when we did talk to him, you could tell right away that he was kind of taking into account what we were saying. There was a sense of maybe regret. I think he was just scared, you know, that we were gonna cut him off from our lives, and it's not like that. I think I wanted to make it clear that it's not like that, you know. I think I don't want to lose my friendship with him because his partner just ended up being really toxic, you know. I think Zach, for all his faults, deep down, is still a good guy, you know. I think he made a lot of mistakes as a parent, right? I think, well, we've outlined some stuff, right? But I think at the end of the day, you could tell that he made those mistakes, but he's trying to make up for them. He's not like a deadbeat dad, you know, like he's not absent, like he's working in, I don't know, 3 or 4 different jobs, and like he doesn't maybe like do the best decisions always, but he is there. Like I know he cares about his son, he loves his son, he's trying to give him a good life. I think right now things have been hard, right? And I'd say even for both of them, like it's been hard. I'm not gonna say it was easy, right? But I think he's trying, you know, and I do want to see him succeed. I know we said a lot of stuff about Brienne, but I don't really wish anything bad on her, you know. I think like, yeah, like she shit on us and all, but I don't want to stoop to that level, you know. I messaged her. I remember I told her like, I wish you were better, right? I told her like, oh, you choose to be worse, but I think maybe there could be. Do you think there's a path for like forgiveness on, maybe not like from us, but like
soon,
maybe eventually, like, how do I say, like maybe she could steer herself in the right direction, you know.
Yeah, we don't
Get
wish
it-
her
yeah.
ill.
No,
intent.
we don't, not at all.
We do wish she would get better.
Yeah, actually, like I wish she would get the help she needs, you know. I think she's been through a lot. I won't deny that, you know. That is very valid. Like that like feeling of pain that she must be feeling. I just wish she would listen to what people that wanted to help her, like everyone wants to help her, right? Like when we talked to her, it was to help her. I wish she would just listen so she could overcome whatever it is that she's feeling, you know. I wish things would have worked out better between them two, where they wouldn't have fostered such a toxic environment, you know, especially now with a son. I think it would be better. How unfiltered is this? Very unfiltered. I think that I don't really want to talk to Brienne, you know, anymore. I wish her the best, and I think from what actions I've seen in the past, I don't know how long it's been, Pablo, 5 days or something.
Since everything started?
Actually, since the
21st.
since the beginning of the month.
The first. It was
the first talk, right?
The first talk was on the 10th.
The first talk was on the 10th, I think. Since then, I think people's actions speak loudly, you know? I think their actions speak loudly, what both of them have done, and maybe what they haven't done, right, too. You know, their silence, too. And I think no matter what's happened, I am siding with Zach, you know. I hope that everything goes well with him. I know he is doing his best to do the right thing, you know. And I just wish him the best, and I will be there to help no matter what, you know. And yeah. Zach.
Now that everything is said and done, a final message to Brienne Chandler. Despite everything you've said, despite everything you've done, us here at the Taco Village, no. All of us you considered friends take pity on you. It really is extremely and terribly sad to see that you are so deeply enveloped in yourself that you can't even see the bigger picture. You can't possibly fathom why we did this, and you can't see what your life will come to if you do not change now. There is an idea of a Brienne Chandler. A fun, loving, quiet girl who loves a good drink, loves her boyfriend, and most of all is a doting mother. However, as presented, this is only an idea. Her idea, to be exact. It's sad. It honestly is very sad. Because how can you possibly get better when you already think you're better than everyone else? How can you take accountability when you are never wrong? You talk extensively about our issues and trauma, our roadblocks, but these are things we actively either still work on or have at least partially worked on and gotten past. Alcoholism, SAEDs, extreme bouts of depression, you name it. One of us has probably experienced it. All very palpable things that are clear steps to be taken to work past. But what are the steps to getting better when your biggest obstacle is yourself? When your biggest problem is your own ego? I guess we almost can't blame you for you being unable to see the error in your ways, because honestly, none of us have advice on where to start with you being your biggest setback. In conclusion, I want to pose one final question to Brienne. Another movie reference, of course, but I feel it is very topical now. A question Bento, the one writing this, asks a lot. How do you live, Brienne Chandler? Thank you to everyone who watched so far. Again, we just wanted to clear our names and put an end to this slander. Show the world who she really is and what we are. From now on, we will make no other mentions or make light of anything else from this point on. Whatever happens, whatever she posts, whatever she says, is completely on her, not us. Like we were before you started posting. we will finally leave you alone. Again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you all in the next one.